My parents have always been really accepting of me being gay, but less accepting of me being anything else but female.
Trying to be open about it. Um, Explaining the concept of being genderless to people because some people don't know the difference between gender and sex because sex is like what you biologically are and gender is what you feel in your head.
Telling people that don't understand.
I get confused. I just occasionally misgender them at first when they tell me, but I try not to.
All the time. Every time you accidentally mix them up, accidentally call someone a she when they like to be a he, or so on. I do that every once in a while.
Messed it up a couple times, but usually they're pretty forgiving. They just correct me, but I'm okay with it.
Sometimes just because I don't want to be rude or hurt their feelings.
Not so much. I used to in the beginning.
I would only get offended if somebody knew and purposely didn't use them. Otherwise, I understand that people don't understand these new ways of identifying with yourself.
I think the only time I get offended is if I tell someone I prefer they, them, and they don't respect it. That's the only time I get offended.
If it's with my friends and I'm out that I use they, them pronouns and that I'm non-binary, I will go, they, them. Or, with some people, if they're uncomfortable using they, them, I'm bad at using some other people's pronouns that aren't they, them. So I can also go by he, him, is my secondary pronouns. But mostly no, I don't really get offended.
I think I kind of figured it out mostly around 4th and 5th grade.
This actually back in January is when I really started thinking about my gender and my sexuality, and I actually identified as multiple things before settling with non-binary, and I started using exclusively they, them pronouns sometime around August maybe of this year.
Well, growing up, I knew I wasn't. I identify as agender, so I knew I wasn't exactly female or male. So I knew for a really long time.
It was actually during Spirit Week last year. It was during winter formal, I think, and it was oh, hey, well, this is actually nice dressing like a guy because I'm gender fluid. So it was hey, this is really cool, and I actually enjoy doing this, and it's something that I feel comfortable in. So some days I'm hey, this is a thing, but other days I'm hey, that's a thing.
I realized this in the past few months because I know I've never felt exactly like a girl or a woman. I've felt more masculine than feminine, but I knew that transitioning fully to male wasn't right for me, so I fall somewhere in between.
I'm in GSA, so I get exposed to that weekly, but it was kind of I wasn't really aware of it at first, but when I was in GSA, I got more exposed to it. So now it's more normal to me when people say they want to be called by a different pronoun.
Yeah, a lot.
I don't know too many, but I do have a few friends.
Something that's been good about it, I'm definitely more comfortable with myself now that I know what I identify as. It's more or less. Finally being comfortable with myself a little more than usual.
Really accepting friends. That's always been really nice, where it's oh, well, what are your pronouns? What do you want to go by? And so it's really nice meeting new people and them having to ask that, and that's oh, it's really considerate.
So many people have been really accepting of it, and they've not sort of shot it down. They've sort of tried to understand and they've asked me questions and sort of asked me any information that they needed to know about it.
Just by calling them the pronouns they prefer. If they prefer to be called she, her, if they prefer to be called him, he, him, or if they prefer to be called they, you should just use the pronouns they want, and it's supportive.
Just respect their wishes. You can't call someone a he if they don't want to be called a he,
All I really do to try to be supportive is I obviously don't know what they're going through, so I just make sure I use the right pronouns and whatever name they'd like to be called, and just never call them out on it.
Probably just ask them, maybe if it comes up, be super polite about it. And then other than that, just let them know that you're there for them and that you just put effort into making sure that you get the correct pronoun. Because sometimes you're going to get it wrong, but just so long as you make an effort.
I prefer they, them.
My preferred pronouns are they, them, gender neutral.
I like to be called a he.
My preferred pronouns are she, her pronouns.
My preferred pronouns are they, them, he, and him.
My preferred pronouns are they, them.
My preferred pronouns are like she, her.
My preferred pronouns are they, them, or ze, her.
I go by he.
They, them, theirs.
Either she or her.
They, them, like this. It's all the lovely things.